ZScaler, the US cyber security cloud-based software company, was storming it in terms of its stock price over 2020-21, and since the end of 21 it's lost nearly 2/3 of its price. Now, with earnings coming up this week, is this a great value point to buy back in, or is there more pain to come? I'm going to have a look at some of the fundamental statistics and the charts to see where they might be heading next, and throw in a few trade ideas for you as well. So with that, let's get on with the analysis. So straight into wallstreetodds.com for a bit of background analysis. Now, if you are bullish, quite like this chart down here, analyst ratings, you can see the current price, the white line, trading about $145 at the moment. If the analysts are correct, there's a $100 upside almost there at the moment. So an interesting chart. If they're right, then a good bullish play, you know, on the books there. Now, I'd mentioned earnings out this week on Thursday after the close. Now, if we look at what normally happens during earnings in the world of ZS, well, we can use the history and we can see, you know, it's a big range, minus 19 down nearly 20% to up nearly 30%, and that is quite a substantial spread there. So we could expect a lot of movement. And what's been happening over the last few quarters, well, it's been better than expected the last 3 quarters, but the day after the return been very mixed, and same for the week and day prior and the week prior return. But as you can see, last one was actually quite a good earnings event for ZScaler. So looking into social sentiment, which can often drive the price further, not too much happening there at the moment. You can see pulling back down and being a bit flat at the moment. So background looking, I would say, well, you could say sort of a weak, bullish, neutral at the moment based off that, you know, background data. And let's now dig back further into the charts. So the weekly line chart for ZS are giving us a lot of clues of what's been going on, and you can see, like I mentioned in the intro, that huge meteoric rise up nearly 800%, and this big, you know, downturn break around here to give us, you know, a sell-off of, you know, nearly 2/3 of its price. It's been in this box area between sort of late 180s to 130, so $50 range there between these Fibonacci points here and here, but got this yellow shaded box area, which I think is going to be critical for any potential further down break. And with earnings coming up very shortly, we could be looking at a breakout in either direction, and maybe the straddle trade is the, you know, best one to capture this if you're not sure of future direction. Interesting other longer term chart pattern, and it is a weakish one, is you've got this shoulder here, you've got the head in there, and then you've got, like I say, this box, this weaker shoulder happening here. And if that is the case and it maybe builds into a stronger shoulder, then, like I say, that downside into the double digits could be possible. But maybe, you know, with earnings out, it could provide the impetus, you know, the price stops around this zone to bounce on back upwards, looking to push once more to those highs near $400. Now, if you are bullish ZS, then using the line break chart here, 4-line break chart, we got some numbers to get you in at 146, 147 in the short term. So something to think about. Good chart type here for picking the reversals and calling the turn. And heading on to the daily Heikin Ashi, we can see, I suppose, immediate takeaways, that downtrend. But in terms of signals, the bottom we got the ATR, so indicators, you know, that's been falling, so less of a daily range in there. And both the trend DMI indicators are signalling bearish. Volatility is flattening off down to, you know, mid 50s. But with that earnings, as you can see, just there popping up, maybe when, as you can actually see historically going back, how, you know, volatility has increased and popped during those sessions. So maybe we could see an increase on upwards volume as well. Not so exciting. Really, it's because of this flat box area here. We've got a sell signal on the 2 pink line box breakout, and at the moment you would call the trend in this sort of medium term view pretty weak to bearish. And what about in the real short term? Using the Req'd, I've used a $3 block size. It's the same sort of picture really. If we go on to the signals, DMI there negative, stochastics looking pretty weak, and the regression pretty weak as well. We saw this double bottom on the Req'd, which allowed some sort of consolidation up, and that's that box area that we've been talking about. 120s are the lows in there. We can see that trend down and that consolidation. So if we're talking upsides, and we've got a big range break like we saw from the Wall Street odds of between 20 and 30% in either direction, you couldn't be talking these sort of numbers quite easily. So to the upside, I think it's first of all got to get through this 175, then into the early 200s, and then up to the 250s. And to the downside, well, we're talking a break under that 125, 127 area, then into this mid zone, which is about 100, and then into say 75, 73 sort of area. But at the moment, even in the short term, it's looking a lot weaker at the moment. So what about some trade ideas for ZS? Now, trade ideas, it's a bit of a mixed bag for ZS. They're looking bearish at the moment, but volatility could pick up this week due to the earnings season, and I really quite like the straddle play at the moment, a longer term one. Normally wouldn't recommend it so close to the earnings date, but maybe the movement there will get you in and out very quickly. But in the longer term, there seems to be a lot of upside and downside space, and volatility is likely to pick up. So it could be a good play. And there I've got the November straddle for you, and in terms of cost, it's about $3,800 for one contract. Now, moving on to the second idea, built sort of a cool spread income trade here, and it's the 160 170 October expiry, so short term. If you think things are a bit more bearish here, it does net you about nearly $300, so there's decent upside there. Break even around 162. Something else for you to think about if you are maybe more weak bearish. Now, if you are bullish, I've just gone for a really long term call expiry, 137 days, January 23, 150 strike. It's going to cost you just over $2,000. And what about potential? Let's go to the simulator, play around with the buttons, and if the price gets up to say the mid 200s, it's a very decent return, 400%, $9,000. So if you think ZS is on the way up, then maybe a longer term call due to keeping the costs down and giving it time to work, then that might be for you. But what about if we are spread betting or CFD trading? Into my Trade Nation spread betting CFD account, searched up ZScaler in the top left there. They've got the rolling contract, reasonable spread, 145.10, 145.22 at the moment. In terms of background information, minimum trade size 10p, and we've got a 5-to-1 leverage there on the ZScaler bet. So there's some ideas for you. Good thing with the spread bet CFDs is you can go long, short, and take the direction you like. So some ideas there from the options and CFD spread betting world. So what about score now for ZScaler? Based purely on the technicals, I'm going to give ZScaler a weak bearish score. It's consolidating at the moment and thinking about what's going to happen come earnings this week, and that's going to push it one way or the other quite heavily, looking at the historical outcomes of earnings season for ZScaler. But if you're bullish, got some very aggressive entries at almost the current price, 146, 147. I'll be a bit more conservative than that if you've seen the targets in a minute that we'll discuss. Heikin probably starting to look a bit more stronger in the longer term, but still weak bearish overall. And I'm going to give the Renko shorter term bearish as well, just because the signals are looking weak. The trend consolidating, but you know, the trend's your friend. If you still run with that, then it's bearish at the moment. So a lot of work to do for ZScaler in terms of targets. Upside 2.25 and 4.75 to 1, downside 2 to 1 and 3.25 to 1. So there you go, weak bearish for ZScaler at the moment. ZScaler is a really interesting one to call at the moment, looking at, you know, the fundamentals and the technicals, historical price, you know, scenarios. It is all still looking very weak, but the plus side, I suppose, it's in a good sector, good product. It has performed in the past, so is it just been caught up in the rottenness of the current, you know, economic climate and, you know, stock markets? Like I say, it's in a great sector, cybersecurity, cloud-based, you know, area. So it does have all the signs of possible turnaround. So crucial week this week for earnings to maybe drive that price one way or the other. And quite frankly, I quite like the straddle trade at the moment because of that doubt in my mind. But let me know what you think in those comments below. Love to hear where you think they are heading next. And if you liked today's video, please give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe and bell buttons. And all that's left for me to say is thanks for watching, good luck with the trading, and I'll see you in the next video.